have died in search of better opportunities. And on the other side, we hear stories of hope and resilience and progress. As we've heard here today, clear evidence that safe and well-managed and dignified migration holds extraordinary potential. We know it, we've seen it. We have family members who lived it. Migration plays a critical role, whether it's in labor markets filling skills gaps, driving innovation, driving entrepreneurship, and addressing some of the biggest challenges that the global community will face. And we know, because we see it here in Zimbabwe, migration boosts economic growth. It provides a lifeline to families who are back home and drives development. Here in Zimbabwe, we know the diaspora sent home at least $2 billion in remittances in the first 9 months of this year alone. And it's more money that comes in from direct investment. It's more money that comes in from overseas development assistance. It's more money than anyone is ever going to give any country that is facing development challenges. Yet, we talk about migration as a problem. So how do we change the conversation? How do we move from migration as a problem to migration as a development opportunity that we know it to be? We know that the impressive investment of finances, together with the harder to measure skills and knowledge transfer, is providing support to entire communities in education, in financing, in infrastructure projects. We know it's boosting business, it's boosting trade, and it drives economic growth. And the only way we get to a place where we talk about how to leverage this extraordinary power of migration, the extraordinary catalyst for change that is migration, is if we build on the cooperation and partnerships of everyone who's in this group, at every level, at every step in the migrant's journey, in the country that she comes from, in the country that she transits through, and the country where she ultimately works. Now, across Africa, this potential is vast. The population on this continent is expected to nearly double to 2.5 billion by 2050. This will be the youngest population globally. And it's an economy that's based predominantly on small and medium-sized enterprises, and all of it is being underpinned by rapid digital transformation. Yes, of course, we at IOM will always provide life-saving support to those who are displaced, to those who are in crisis, to those who need us most. But we know that work only goes so far. So instead, rather than putting billions and billions and billions of dollars into humanitarian response, what if we put just a fraction of those resources and that energy into building safe, regular, dignified ways for people to migrate? Together, we have to take a broader view of where and how safe and regular migration pathways can be most effective. And by the way, this means not just channeling migration to further enrich already wealthy nations. It means identifying pathways for people to move across the continent. It means to leverage the promise in the African Union's 2063 strategy in which people and trade move across the continent. It means leveraging the promise of SADC when it talks about the protocol of a facilitated movement of people. It means leveraging the political will that exists but somehow gets lost when we talk about managing borders and the exploitation of human beings. It means integrating and building migration into development strategies, whether it's here in Zimbabwe, whether it's countries across the region, whether it's countries across the continent, or countries across the world. Now there's some good news. The good news is that right here in Zimbabwe, we're seeing that work. Thanks to the leadership of several of the ministries represented here in this room, we are seeing Zimbabwe builds on the promise of migration. We're seeing it in the development of inclusive migration policies. The National Migration Policy, for example, makes sure that migrants have access to health care, to legal identity, to social services. And the National Labor Migration Policy streamlines labor migration governance to make sure that skills are matched with the labor gaps within and across borders. And I want to take a minute to congratulate and welcome our newest champion of the Global Compact for Safe, Regular, and Orderly Migration, the government of Zimbabwe.
Some business communities in Zimbabwe have occasionally assisted the Department of Immigration in the repatriation exercises to reunite stranded migrants with their families. It goes without saying that government cannot do it alone. Partnership from the private sector, civil society organizations, UN agencies, community agencies must work together to ensure that migrants are protected and facilitated with dignity. The National Development Strategy 1 places premium on a whole of government and a whole of society approach to national development. Zimbabwe celebrates milestone accomplishments made by migrants in Zimbabwe towards national development. Sporting icons such as Zhakata are a product of a well-managed naturalization process. Zimbabwe celebrates pivotal achievements made by foreign nationals admitted into the country as refugees, asylum seekers, scholars, students, expatriates, investors, entrepreneurs, retirees, just to mention a few. In recognizing the critical role migrant communities play in Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Constitution guarantees freedom of movement to all citizens and foreign nationals. And they are also accorded access to justice. Zimbabwe has not been spared from the devastating effects of brain hemorrhage as nurses and doctors have emigrated from Zimbabwe en masse. Statistics from the United Kingdom government revealed that between June 2023 to June 2024, 35,938 Zimbabweans were granted work visas to the United Kingdom, mostly as healthcare workers. It may be a challenge to tell this immigration pattern as reasons for such vary. However, it is equally possible to replenish lost and or required skills through sound policies. His Excellency, the President, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, has emphasized that Zimbabwe is open for business. He has further emphasized a pragmatic policy of re-engagement with the global community. The development of standard operating procedures on border governance, the national reform mechanisms for vulnerable migrants, the launch of the National Migration Policy in August 2023, which now complements the National Labour Migration Policy, National Diaspora Policy, and the Tourism Policy as coordinated by the Interministerial Committee on Migration. The development of the National Migration Profile, the 2022 Population and Housing Census, which included a module on immigration in a bid to capture diaspora data using bold and innovative methodologies. The rolling out of an online border management system for all ports of entry, including our remote borders, the vital civil registration, the introduction of electronic passports, modernization of ports of entry, such as the Robert Mugabe International Airport, the Bridge Border Post, the Victoria Falls International Airport, all speaks to the Zimbabwe's commitment to orderly migration and the harnessing of the benefits derivable from safe, regular, and orderly migration. The successful launch of the second National Plan of Action against trafficking persons for the period 2023 to 2028 highlights my government's commitment to prevent trafficking, protect its nationals, partner strategic agencies, and prosecute traffickers. The Zimbabwe Migration Gender-Based Violence Call Center, housed in the Department of Immigration Headquarters, serves as a response to the plight of vulnerable migrants in vulnerable situations, mainly women, children, and the disabled. Such positive results serve as testimony that SADC member states are harnessing recommendations from the MITSA. Towards this end, International Organization for Migration, IOM, is lauded for their unwavering support to SADC as a community and specialized support tailored for the unique challenges faced by respective member states. As I conclude this session, allow me, Your Excellency, to reiterate that regional integration is best promoted by people integration. Our collective resolve should be anchored on ensuring the integration of member states in the SADC bloc if efforts to promote safe, regular and orderly migration are to be realized.
Each time our head of state goes to visit a country, in my previous post, I was Minister of Foreign Affairs, we always insisted that he will address the diaspora in that particular country. And this encouraged a lot of diaspora Zimbabweans to do the contributions that Ms. Pope was talking about. Not only for Zimbabwe, in my other life I lived in China. And I used to go to Hong Kong, and one of the very spectacular things was that people from the Philippines who work in Hong Kong had some very important occasions where they invited other migrants to come and participate in. And it is important to point out that they too, we got to know later, that in fact they contributed more than $3 billion to the Philippines. And this is extremely important. Another example which I think should be mentioned, which glorifies migrants, is that when I visited Ireland, I was informed that in Ireland, investments in Ireland, there are more Irish people outside Ireland than there are in Ireland. But the investment that those who are outside Ireland have contributed to their country is enormous, is immense. So we want to recognize the IOM as the main soothing voice and all these people who live elsewhere, but remember their country. In this country, I think we coexist very well with people from other countries. My brother there, Minister Moyo, and I are associated with Tongo Garakeno. He's associated with it this year for the second time, because he's, the fourth time, because he was also the Minister of Public Service and Labor. Oh, that made a challenge. I think I was there for two years, I mean twice. But the important thing is that we really appreciate what IOM has been doing to Zimbabwe, has been assisting Zimbabwe, and let me proceed to say, well, this double, I don't know what to call it, but you being here, Ms. Paul, and there having been no one from IOM in the last 40 years, in fact in the last 44 years, not 40 years, is extremely encouraging to Zimbabwe.